Hello and welcome to this video. I'm just going to give it about 10 seconds because I'm doing it live to allow the game and the stream to sync up slightly and we'll get started. And so let's start fading the music out. I'll fade the game sound in. Let's come across and you'll see we're here actually on VATSIM. I'm going to use for today as we review the Rotate MD11, right? So this is an XP12. We're on VATSIM. We're reviewing the MD11, or the Mad Dog, as some people like to call it, made by Rotate. We're here at Gatwick. Here we are, and you can see there's a whole bunch of people online using the latest beta. I believe it's version 11 just came out in the last day or so here of XP12. I've got the RTX 4090, so it's going to run very nicely. We're streaming in 1440p. I like to lazily call it 2K. So do make sure you got it set as high as your connection will allow. I have tried streaming in 4K. Does work, but I just think it's a little dicey when it's prime time, such as now, 6:30 in the evening here in the UK. And so let's crack on with it. You can see it very busy here at Gatwick. And you see all these little yellow tags are real world players. For those not familiar on VATSIM, you're going to have a bit of a shock what you're about to hear. And for those that do know, you can see there is an awful lot going on here. We're in the... Of course, the MD11, it's the cargo version of it. And if I can find the stand, we're cold and dark. Part of this review is showing you real-time live how this plane operates. No cuts when things don't work out, or there's a glitch or a lag spike or any of that. I want you to see what happens. If you don't know if you want this aircraft, watch this video. By the end of it, you will know if you want the MD11. Guarantee you that, if nothing else. And so let's jump in. And for those wondering, by the way, we're in the cockpit. See what you mean by cold and dark. For those wondering, what do you mean by paid for reviews? I run a YouTube channel separate to this. It's only just got like a few thousand subscribers, all right? And I've already had multiple companies reaching out to me, wanting me to promote stuff. What that means is any channel that is larger than a few thousand subscribers making videos on the flight simulation genre, I guarantee you are getting offers more than I did if they're bigger than me. And because I've already had 3 or 4, and I've only gotten to the stage of a few thousands. By the way, I started my channel a year ago. And so to give you an inkling there on how quick offers start coming in. And they don't necessarily say to you, oh, you're only to say nice things and then we'll give you this. But the way it's done is, oh, here's this product. We'd like you to leave a review. And you sort of look into it and, oh, by the way, they got final approval. And, oh, by the way, somebody that disliked, said something about the company, was then got rid of and had copyright DMC takedowns on their channel there. In other words, if you get into bed with these people, yes, you might get a little bit of a payment up front, or sometimes it's done through like, oh, buy this through my link, you'll get 10% discount, and that's the way it's done. Either way, you're then bound in what you can say, and that's why I feel that this is important. So with all that out the way, let's crack on. By the way, for those wondering what this is, I'm in regular XP12. We've got no add-ons running apart from the MD11. I've got better pushback. We're on VATSIM. That's it. This is just a regular aviation flashlight. If you've not seen it, that's how you get onto it. And you can see here we're cold and dark. And so let's see if we can make a start. And yeah, I hope you find this one useful. So the battery is behind this little cover here. Turn sound up, make sure you can hear. And by the way, if you hear any random bangs, it's coming up to the 5th of November here in the UK. And for some reason, people like to celebrate this guy that they don't even know anything more than he tried to kill the government or something by the name of Guy Fawkes. And he failed and he had his head chopped off, and people for some reason like to celebrate this. It's just basically an excuse to fire rockets up in the air, but some people let them off early, as I guess everywhere else that celebrates New Year will know. And so that's what it is. It isn't the RTX 4090 overheating and starting to blow up. At least I don't think so. All right, so we've got battery power on. Let's get this going. And that is it for now. And so now comes the first part, the aircraft menu, which you can bind to your HOTAS or your keyboard, or you can also get to it through the menu here, the Rotate MD11. So I'm going to come to it through this menu here, and this will be an ideal time for me to show you what this menu here is about. So you've got 4 tabs here. There's nothing confidential, so I'm fine to show you all of it. And so this one here is your failures. What I would say is it's a fail now or okay. That is it. There doesn't seem to be an option of fail in such and such a time, or fail randomly, or fail at or above a certain speed or a certain height, which seems to be the norm this day. And so in my opinion, yes, you've got a nice range of failure options here, but I would like to see a better implementation of how and when you would like these failures to be implemented. To have to come into a menu and click on a thing and click fail now, I mean, not only do you know exactly when it's going to come, but it's a little bit obtrusive in the whole, I'd like to see at least an option of some sort of randomization, or to fail after, let's say, 20 minutes, or as I'm accelerating through V1, or after, like, let's say 10,000 feet, whatever. You've got ground operations here, so this is going to be your chocks, your ground power units, stairs. And I do want to show something here. I'm aware it's dark outside because we've got real time on, but let's get the ground power unit. Let's get cockpit stairs request. Bear in mind, it's only the freighter version of the MD11, and so you're not really going to have passengers. It's going to be cargo. But in any case, let's get the cockpit door open. We've got another door at the aft of the cabin. We'll leave that. And let's open the cargo doors. And yeah, we'll leave that as there. Okay, and let's come outside now, just so you can see briefly what it is. We do got a little bit of lighting from the terminal, I guess. By the way, got my settings on full with regards to XP12. And so what you see is what you get. Again, no special scenery with regards to Gatwick here or the UK generally. I decided to keep my game as slick as possible so we can enjoy the frame rates that you see now. Yeah, so we got the FedEx livery going. You don't get it by default. By default, you just get Rotate's MD11 livery or a blank one. They're free to download once you've got the aircraft. So here you can see the cockpit door is open. If I come up to it, you've got the stairs here. And so these are the options we saw. There is a very small animation to it, so it's not like instantaneously open and close. In fact, can I get to the menu from the outside? I can. And so if we take this cargo door, I should have done this in the day, not on VATSIM, but regardless, it's too late now. There, you can just about see the door there silhouetted. Is this the main cargo door? Yeah, there it is. And so you can see there is a bit of an animation to it. You can bind these to a keyboard or a combination or your joystick or whatever. And so if you've got an external, like the Stream Deck things or a gamepad or anything, you could potentially bind all of these up and then make it look a bit more seamless when you're doing streaming or whatever. You wouldn't have to use this menu. Again, I'm just showing this for people first time. I've got some things bound. Here now we've got load manager. I'm kind of working back to front here. And this is how you start, 0-0 basically across the board. And so when you get your sim brief, which we'll take a look at in a minute, here you can put your total payload in, your cargo weight, block fuel, taxi fuel. I've never understood why this module separates taxi fuel from block fuel, because block fuel by definition includes taxi fuel. It's your off-block fuel. You're going to come off your blocks and then you're going to start taxiing. And so why that is separate, yeah, I don't know. We've also got ballast tank options here. And then your fuel, if you decide to use a ballast tank, I don't think there's any need to this time. And then just, this is not required, but it's just so that the module here can sort of say, oh, if you're going to tank up with so much fuel, let me just demonstrate this. And let's put a load of payload in as well. So with this much payload and this much fuel, going to be overweight for landing. And so what you can do here is say, well, we're expected to use so much fuel during the trip. And you can see here, if we use less than this much fuel, it's saying, well, you're going to be too heavy for landing. However, if we fly and use over 150,000 pounds, which is actually more than we're putting in. Bad example. Let me lower the weight slightly. There we go. So if we tank up with 150, but we're expected to use about 138, that is okay to go. If, however, we're only going to use 100,000 pounds for the fuel, it's saying here you're going to be too heavy for when you're landing. So, again, you don't have to use it. You can ignore it, but it is there, especially if, like me, you're new to the MD11 and you don't necessarily know. Again, SimBrief's going to take care of that for you, but it is there as an option. Nice to know. And then speaking of options, here we go. Again, it's just your rudimentary stuff. Do you want it in Celsius, Fahrenheit, kilos, pounds? The same for the fuel. Do you want it in litres or pounds? Yeah, I'm from the UK, so we operate in Celsius. And I like things in the imperial way, not in the metrics. But if you do prefer things in kilos, that is there. If you want your IRS or your IRU, they're calling it, to align quick, you've got the option here. I like it real time just because you've got that much to do pre-flight. Why not, right? Have it real time. And that does vary how close or far away you are from the equator. Of course, the nearer to the equator you are, the quicker the alignment goes. You've got your altimeter default here, which is almost irrelevant because you can change it over. Basically, you've got the American settings, which is your altimeter 2992, or you got your QNH 1003 or whatever it is. So you've got your options there. You can synchronize, which is always nice to have because being single pilot can be a bit frustrating having to change the altimeter on everyone, you know, whether it's a pilot, backup, and then first officer. You know, usually you've got a minimum of 3 to change. And if they're out of sync, often you get a caution that they're out of sync. And so to synchronize them is just nicer for single pilot operations. Unless, of course, you are flying with a real co-pilot somehow, then you may want to untick that option. You've got your radio options, of course. I like the additional setting there. And then just some personal preferences. I like to use a tiller and toe brakes, and so those are tech there. So with that done, let's go ahead and make a start then. So we're in the aircraft. We asked for the ground power. We've got master caution light there. And so if we come upstairs, because we asked for the ground power, and again, just to show where this was, ground operations here, you see here ground power unit is online, and because of that we then get this avail light here for external power. For those of you used to certainly Airbuses, this is going to feel very Airbusy. Again, I own about 30 or 40, maybe even 50 modules, depends how many games you want to include. X-Plane, I've certainly got about 20, 25, DCS around 25 there as well. And then if you want to include some of the others, yeah, maybe even more than 50, which is a bit scary. In any case, this will seem very common. You hit that, and that light shows up even if the power's off, and now you can hear the aircraft jump into life. So with that, we can get rid of... let's keep the torch just for a sec. I've never flown this aircraft at night. I got it yesterday, and both times I've flown it, it's been daytime. Again, if you do see this yellow text, it's because we're online on VATSIM, and you're going to see where other players are real world. In any case, let's dial in this light in here, and that'll do. Now let's get rid of the flashlight. So this is first time me seeing the night lighting as well. And I don't pretend to be an expert when it comes to the Mad Dog, but I've got to say, having flown it yesterday and today, it was possible to start and fly first time doing it. If you're certainly if you're used to flying the Airbuses, it's going to be really easy. And frankly, I mean, a lot of aircraft, there's this thing, right? You get the battery on, you get ground power on, you get the APU on, you get the bleed out the APU, you start the engines. I mean, which aircraft isn't like that? Let's be honest, all right? It's same theory. We do got the FMCs or the McDoos, And the Mad Dog does call them the McDoos, which makes me think, when McDonnell Douglas did half the team sort of up sticks and leave when that got bought up by Boeing, and did they come over to Airbus? Because this is more like an Airbus than a Boeing. I really like the screens. Yes, they're looking very dated. It's after all a dated aircraft, but they're very clean and slick and very functional. I've really liked what I've seen so far. Got some more lighting options here and here. And while this does actually look really good at night, I do want to say that during the day, and again, this is maybe more of an X-Plane early beta thing, being an XP12, the lighting is a little lacking during the day. Like, it looks very dim and dingy during the day. Actually, there's more light in this at night with the lights on than during the day with the lights on, which, again, it could blame, if you want to use that word, the fact that XP12 is in early beta. I'm just looking to dim down. Is it that one? Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Is it the little wheel then? That's what I was trying to do. The backlighting was just a little too bright, a little dingy. There we go. That's kind of how I want it. All right, fantastic. I'm happy with that. And so with that sort of little bit of an intro out the way, we've got another more light here. Always makes me laugh when they include stuff like this, because it's like completely pointless, but the fact that somebody bothered to make it work is just a real nice touch. We've got briefcase light here, which, surprise, surprise, lights up where you'd put your briefcase. One thing to note, there is no built-in AviTab panel or side panel. I really like my little tablet on the side, even on an old aircraft, because just because it's an old aircraft doesn't mean you can't bring an iPad aboard and attach it to the side of the screen. Some people might say, well, that's because they want to have it as it was back in the day, which is fair enough. If that is the case, I'd like to see them at least have an option in the menu where you can choose to have it or not. Doesn't stop you using your plugin at all. So if we come over here to AviTab, we can still toggle the tablet and make use of it there. Once again, I highly recommend you binding the toggle tablet if you do use this, so you can quickly access it without having to use the menu. And so let's have a little look then at what's going on, and we'll start with the charts. This is what I've got planned. It's Gatwick to Frankfurt. I'm going to ignore the release time because clearly it's a little late, and we'll take it from there. Let's also airport-wise Echo Golf Kilo Kilo, which is going to be Gatwick. And if we set this over to airport, make sure it's in night mode. There we go. And here you can see, there we are in red up against the cargo stand. It's not going to show anybody else's, but that's fine. And in a moment, we'll see if... Excuse me, one sec. I just wanted to... My channel is so small that even if you search games with brains, you can't see it. I'm just wanting to do a quick sound check on my phone. See if I can find it. There we go. All right, let me have a... All right, so sounds fine to me. All right, great. So, was there actually game sounds, come to think of it? Just bear with one sec. Indeed there was. Okay, panic over. All right, I'll just turn them up even a little bit more. All right, so something else I noticed, you've got one-click window touches, which is real nice. So if I click on this sort of dial here, I don't got to spin the mouse or mouse wheel or anything. It's one click open, one click shut, which is real nice. Now this may seem an obvious thing to do. I'm surprised how many modules just don't bother. The majority don't bother, and it seems such a simple thing to add a window animation in. Not only the animation, but you then get the louder sound outside once it is open. I realised there's some sort of fan blowing in the cockpit which is drowning out the external sounds, but just gonna have to take my word for it. If that fan wasn't going, you'd hear the outside. I think if you've got headphones or bassy speakers, you can hear that there's definitely a louder sound out there. Alright, let's have a little look then. You've also got some little lights on here, and we are going to crack on with this a little bit. Where's the dial? It was on. There it is. Very simplified checklist, but it gets you through the basics. If you're panicking and you know everything's starting to go wrong and you need to get on the ground now, this is going to get you through the basics. Alright then, so let's go through setting up a plan. You got your plan option here and FMC. You got your aircraft status here, and at this point it's gonna seem like an early version. If you've got the A300 or the A310 by any builds, you're gonna feel right at home with this aircraft. But anyway, in any case, if you're good at, I say good, that's the wrong word, familiar with any of the more modern Airbuses, it's going to be just green and black, look a bit more like your Boeing FMC, but the way it operates is like your Airbus. So let's get in. So I'm sure there is a way to import the route. If there is, I haven't figured it out. It's not the traditional way of airport 01. But I'm going to put in Echo Golf Kilo Kilo Echo Delta Delta Fox. Okay. Why not planets in here in person? In fact, let's come up top. I should have started the IRSs. It's going to start a test as soon as we do it, so stand by for that. Why the built-in test only begins once that's lining, I have no idea, but it is what it is. This is, for such an old aircraft, incredibly automated. And it's got this really bizarre system. I'm just going to show it. And so the default is it's automated. And see on every section here, the fuel, the air, the electrics and the hydraulics, you've got this little button top right that says system, and you see it's dark. Dark is like, it's a dark cockpit, just like the Airbuses. Dark means it's in either the normal mode or in automatic, whichever one. If it's lit up, then there's either a fault with it or it's in the non-standard mode. In other words, dark is good, if you want to call it that. If you want to change some of these settings, let's for example say here, I'm going to turn this pump. See here, you got this flash here that's flashing manual. So you need to press it to get it into manual mode. Now you see it's lit up. Now you can change it. Now you can do whatever the thing is that you're wanting to do by yourself. And the same applies to them all. Yeah, I'm new to the Mad Dog, so I'm new to this system, which is why I'm pointing it out. I'm sure there's going to be others new to it, because it's not one of the regular ones. And so even if you think, oh, I'm starting to mess things up, I can't remember how it was, just hit that and it's dark. It's going to go back automatic and put you back to where it should be. And again, the same applies to all of these. So to say it's handy would be an understatement. Alright, so let's make a look here at the default lighting. Again, it's kind of weird. So see here, the logo light is off if it's off. So if you turn the logo on, you've got beacon here, high intensity. Notice here it says nav and it's dark. So you think, well, I want nav lights on, I'm going to hit it. It actually turns it off. And so if you want your nav lights on, you've got to hit that so it's dark. It would be nice to see a bit more obviousness as to which one needs to be on and off, but you can figure it out pretty quick And once you're up in the air, it actually begins to make a lot of sense. We'll take a look at that when we're in the air. Standby compass, I imagine, is to light the standby compass there. So that's good to see. So we'll keep that off in case the worst should happen. Got a dome light here. And again, this was unrecognizably not doing anything during the day, but at the night, it's a nice quick way. Also got your thunderstorm lights here. All right, let's start cracking on then. So we'll clear out the MC. We've got the routing. What's our alternate? So I'm going to try and run through this a little quicker. Charts. Our alternate is going to be page 2. Echo Delta Delta Lima. If memory serves, that's going to be Dusseldorf in Germany. Going to Frankfurt in Germany. Okay, so flight number, we are flying as FedEx 5153. FX 5153. We'll pop that in there. Cruise, this is only in flight level, so don't try and put the whole 30 or whatever thousand in, or it's not going to work. And in my case, 23, then 35, then 23. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 35 in there. I guess you could put the intermediate levels in as well, but I'm just going to go straight for 350. And we've got your initialize IRS option here. And if we come into the pause ref, it's everything that you'd expect. Your IRUs, which are not yet aligned, and then you've got your GPSs or your GLONASSes down here. And again, your IRU drift and code, error codes here. Not something you've got to worry about, but it's nice to see it is simulated as long as you've got your pause ref and you wait until that's done before you start moving. Like any other aircraft, you're good to go. You don't got to punch in your entire coordinates like you do with some older aircraft. It's got the GPS. Cost index 21, so we'll punch that in there. And with that, we've got the first page done. We switch over to page 2, you've got your weights here. And so now there is a part to this I'm wanting to show you that's a little more interesting than just punching in numbers. Again, very specific to this module. So if we come over to page 3, which is going to have all your weights in there. I don't understand why it gives me passengers. The sim brief, it is set to freight only. I think it's a little bit of a bug. In any case, we're just going to take the payload numbers. We're going to ignore both of these. And if we come over to the aircraft here on load manager, let's get this matching up now. So you see there, payload total is 86.4. So let's get that matching there. It's close. You can also type in, so you could 86.4, and then I always like to put in some change just so it's not an exact match. You can change your CG, your center of gravity there. We'll worry about that in a minute. Let's first come up to fuel. This fuel here is your total block fuel from top. So see there, it says 36.1. If we come over to, oh, by the way, this does seem to block out some of the screen way beyond its size, so just be aware of that. So there you can see we've got all the different fuels here, and here you see block is 36.1. So if we come down here, 36.1 in fuel. You may wish to round that up. It was always the sort of thing, you know, people took the block fuel, rounded it up to the nearest 100, and then added another 100 on top of that. Just depends how you like to do it. So we could go with 36.3, and so why not? 36.3, and let's make that one exact. Okay, there we go. Again, taxi fuel, it's included with the block, so I'm not sure what that is. And again, if you are wanting to be this thing again, honestly, there you go. That's an example of what I'm wanting to show. Granted, it's a minor thing, but you know, paid for ads, you would clip that mistake out and just make it look like there was never an issue at all. And I just can't stand channels that do that. And again, I've had offers myself on me larger gaming chats. Say larger, it's only a few thousand, but it's enough to monetize and all the rest of it. You get people writing in wanting, I'm telling you. And so I know anybody with more than 5,000 subscribers on their channel is getting more offers than me to do this kind of thing. And Which is why, if they don't say right off the bat that it's an unpaid thing, or they're not an insider or whatever, be very, very careful with the quote review, because there's a good chance if they're not saying anything, they're just not saying anything because it's bought and paid for. Doesn't mean that, I'm just saying be careful. Alright, so yeah, trip fuel here you can see to Frankfurt, we're estimated to burn 16,959, and so you may want to punch that in here, 16,959, and then assuming it doesn't give you an error, that means, you know, weights are within limit. And in this case, you can see we're well okay to carry a lot more than we are doing. I am just going to move the center of gravity. This is with regards to where the pallets are going to be on your plane. And if you're light, you do need to move them more to the forward. If you're heavier, you know, you can leave it. Let me demonstrate. The heavier we make this and the more fuel we put in, you can see their center of gravity for takeoff is further and further to the right. Here you've got the center of gravity for zero fuel, as in no fuel left. And so as this flight is going to continue, the center of gravity is going to gradually move further and further to the front of the aircraft. In any case, let's just get this ballpark to where it was. Again, it doesn't really have to be precise. Let's just get it vaguely on. I think it was somewhere around there. That'll do. In any case, doesn't matter if we're over. Okay, apply load, and then you can see it auto fills these. Now, just in case you were thinking, oh, you want to double check, always worth double checking. But again, we're operating in pounds. Block here, so this is going to be a block 38.2. And if we take a look here, block fuel 38.222. So 38.2, that checks out. And where are we with zero fuel weight? 330.6. And if we look here, zero fuel 330.6. Takeoff CG 26.6. Zero fuel weight CG 22.0. 26.6, 22.0. So all that checks out. It fills it all in for you. You don't got to worry about it. Is there a way to get this populated without this auto-completing? I don't know, because it seems like the same button does both. It's an extended controls option. Wonder what that is. Ah, this lets you really specify exactly where you want the weights to go. Okay. And it seems to clear it all out. Oh, it doesn't because I didn't click apply. Okay, thank goodness for that. I didn't want to have to refill all of that stuff in. Aye, we got a lot of caution lights because doors are still open, but let's have a little look from the outside now. I think I was too late to see it with all that gabbing. I'll tell you what. Let's force it to reload by just changing it slightly. Let's just do that to it. Apply. Ground operations. Request fuel and load. There we go. Here we go. So again, this is not an add-on. This is not like my external ground handling mod. I'm not using it. I have got it installed, but I'm not using it. This is coming with the aircraft. So you can see here we've got a loader, and here we've got a guy with cargo. And I was really impressed by this because I've never had a module that does this before. So not only does it load the stuff up in an animation, that is not new to me. But watch what actually happens once it gets loaded in. If you've ever seen these videos, like the air clips or whatever, where they got operations at airport, you'll have seen this stuff. It is missing a few sound effects, which is a bit of a shame, but the animations are all there. And you can see, I know it's dark because it's late at night. It's a bit of a mistake on my part, that. But I'm sure you can make out the cargo is there. And again, we asked for it to be loaded pretty much at the front due to the center of gravity. So that's where it's going to go. And here's another one. This stuff actually is, it doesn't just disappear when you move away. it stays there, and when you get to the other end, it unloads again as well. So again, that's a real nice little touch. Again, not something I've seen before, certainly wanted to point it out. And so let's go ahead, get on Freak. It's going to be insanely busy because, again, VATSIM Gatwick. Just take a look. Just hang on, let me just release the camera for those maybe a little later on. This is just the ground. All right, not quite as many as there were before, but you can see it's very busy indeed. And so let's go ahead, tune in the 80s, which is going to be found on 136. 525, I believe. And so let's dial it in. First little look at the radio. On 36. $525. Make it active, and then the all important, don't forget, turn this one up, pull it out.
Dew point +5, QNH1016. Acknowledge receipt of information, MAG, and advise aircraft type on first contact.
So apologies for the bit of a sound there at the start. I've got rid of it.
Quick information, MAG. Time 1820 Zulu.
And so yeah, you can turn that on and off.
Transition level, flight level.
And turn the volume up and down as you like.
Degrees, 5 knots.
And so let's listen to it. I'm going to need it.
Dew point +5, QNH1016.
Alright, so first of all, 1016, change it to QNH.
Advise aircraft type on first contact.
QNH 1016, and due to our settings, that should copy it over there. So if we switch them over to QNH 1016 indeed. Looks like we do need to set the standby one ourselves, so there we go, 1016. We've got the standby altimeters there. Let's uncage that.
Dew point +5, QNH1016. Acknowledge receipt of information, MAG, and...
Alright, so we got Mike. We're with Mike. Alright, let's see then. Is there anybody on Gatwick? Ground looks like 121.8. Let's have a little listen. That's the standby one. May as well set that to 122.8 in case we get handed off to... I'm not going to be using it really because we're doing a flight check, but in any case, 122.8 is going to be your standby, or your... what do they call it now? Name escapes me. When there's no controller. In any case, let's tune up Gatwick ground 121.8. Let's have a listen. Currently nobody transmitting, and the other one is 121.75. Tell you what, we'll have the other one in on the other side, 121.8. And then we'll hear it no matter which one gets transmitted first. 121.8, we'll activate that. And we'll make sure we're listening on VHF number 2 as well. Alright. This is in, weights are in. Tell you what, it's long enough setting one of these up anyway. When you're trying to set up and explain things and do a bit of review all in once, no pun intended, it does take a little bit longer anyway. So there's the weights in. So let's come over to the flight pan page. You can almost but not quite do your diff rips. You know, those are used to you doing your diff rips. Nearly but not quite. So Gatwick, I didn't actually grab what runway they were going on, but I've seen them approaching from that side. So they're approaching from, if we can find our heading, from the north, northwest, and so our departure's going to be to the south, southeast. So what am I talking about? North, northwest. Let's have a little look. Okay, from that side, so they're coming, we are facing north, so they're coming from the east, and so we'll depart into the east. Runway 8 left, no longer in use at Gatwick apparently, 8 right, so it's going to be 8 left for all actions. And then we've got our SID here, standard index departure. And so if we take a little look on our chart, what we got, we've got the MIM-1 mic. Now it reckons 2.6. They're using 8 left. Either way, our first waypoint is Minfo, so we're going to do a bit of using a brain here. You've got your SIDs here, and so we're looking for and can't actually see one, and so we'll see if we can find something similar. So let's come over to airports, Gatwick, come over to the departures, looking for the Minfo mic. Oh, we can hear someone transmitting, but it's very far away. Info 1 mic. So you can see what's going on there. Tell you what, I think it's going to be safer that we choose 2.6 left, and we'll grab the Info 1 mic. Just to make it a little easier. Seeing as there wasn't as index departure that takes us to Minfo from the other runway. Alright, so with that rigged up, let's insert that. And initial climb looks like 6,000. So as you'd expect, put that into the autopilot here. Be nice to see the backlit stuff a little brighter, but it's still usable. Let's hide that. And let's look at weights with regards to takeoff speed. So that's a flight plan. Actually, I just realized it doesn't auto-load the whole flight plan in. One little shortcut you can do with this aircraft that I really like, you can connect all the airways without the intermediate points. Let me show you what I mean. From Minfo, we're on the Yankee 312 airway to Dover, then we're on the Lima 9 to Conan, then the Upper Lima 607 to Spee, then the Tango 180 to Anuco, and so on. You don't need to put all that in. So if you come over to your Minfos here, or whichever your first waypoint is, over to your airways, you can just go from airway to airway. So you can't do this in every module. You can with some, not others. This one you can. I tested it earlier. So you got your Yankee 312. Now if we push in straight to Lima 9, it already knows to autofill Dover. Why? Because there's only one point in space where the Yankee 312 crosses with Lima 9. Where is that point in space? Dover. And so if we go from Lima 9 to Upper Lima 607, same thing again, Conan. Then we're over to the Tango 180. So finally we hear someone on Freak. Let's turn that down. Tango 180 to Anuco. And Anuco's the final waypoint. And then we're down the Anuco 3 Alpha into Frankfurt. Probably 2.5 left. We'll see how that pans out. In this case, Anuco. Wanting to do some tests on the way though, so that's why I didn't really want to be pushing bother on the way. Could you sew it up beforehand? Yes. Can you change it whether you've sewn it up or not? Yes. For the purposes of, you've got your plan here, let's just sew it up. Just to show that we can change it. So you've got Frankfurt here as your end destination. You're going to click on your star again. If you're used to Airbus, it's going to be real obvious. If you're used to Boeing, it should still be pretty obvious, but it's exactly like the Airbuses. So you've got your Anuco 3 Alpha. Unlike some aircraft, you can do either the star or the runway or both. So you don't got to start with a runway or you don't got to start with a star. You can do either one. And if you want, you can just pick the star and leave the runway, or vice versa, which is again a nice touch. The newer Airbuses force you to choose the runway first and then do the star. I don't see why, because often you're going to do the star regardless, and then the runway, you know, it might get changed by the time you get there. And in the Airbus, you've got to rebuild the whole route. Right, so I'm not actually seeing the Anuco 3 Alpha, but that's fine. Let's start with 2.5 left on the approach, and then we'll see what we get. So if we got, you see you got a whole number of letters here. You can probably guess what they stand for. R, J, and I's. And of course, being I for ILS, we want 2.5 left. So let's go for I, 2.5 left here. This is now going to filter out any inappropriate stars, much like the Boeings do. And a Nuco, still not seeing 3 Alpha. I don't know why. I have updated. Let me just check it's not further down. And indeed it is further down. So a Nuco 3 Alpha, that was my bad. Now you can see if we insert that, I'm guessing Delta Fox 626. I'm just going off experience there. Now you can see that's what that looks like. Then you've got your radar vectors from A to C. Clearly they're going to pull you across at any time to keep the approach stacked up. And then there's final. QNH 1016, well, we've got that in. Okie doke, so with the flight plan sewn up, that's sewn up. Got the performance page here. This is regards to climb, cruise and descent. It is set based on your cost index, but you can change it. So for example, here you've got max climb 236. You may decide you don't want that. Let's see if we can just put 240 in. Just I'll tell you what, let's go for 250 because generally you're going to be climbing at 250. Edit MMO, and now you see it's going to climb MMO. Sorry, it's 250. I guess if we put the slash in, can we change the... it's going to climb at 310 once we're through transition anyway, so I've no idea why there's such a discrepancy. Could be due to a restriction. And so let's clear that out. Oh, you can't. So how do you do it? Go back to Econ. You do. There we go. Alright, so page 1 there. Page 2 is your cruise. You can see it's destined to cruise at Mach 0.81. And then you've got the same on the descent. And let's just try and change this. Edit. So let's say we want to descend at Mach 0.80 for argument's sake. Or at speed 325. Sorry, put it in the wrong bit. Here, edit. And now we can select that. Okay, so yeah. As straightforward as you would assume. But if we come over once again to the climb page, you've got your thrust limit page here, and you can see for takeoff, you've got full there. You can obviously flex it. So with an outside air temperature of 10 degrees, we could say flex that back to 15. And what I like about this, if I just turn the radio down a sec, you can see it shows you straight away the difference. So there's max takeoff, 107.5. Because we've derated it by 5 degrees, or now 6 degrees, see the outside temperature's just dropped, it's actually giving us 106.4, and you can change that to see exactly what you're going to get. So if we derate it to 20, 105.4, we derate it by 25 degrees, and so on and so on and so on. You can, of course, just clear that out and roll with max takeoff, or get your derate by 10, or your derate by 20, your takeoff 0, 1 and 2s. Those of you in the Boeings will know that. Those of you in the Airbus looking at that thinking, what's that? I've not seen that before. Of course, the Boeings are wondering what the hell is the flex, whereas the Airbus are thinking, yeah, I know flex. Well, this lets you have a bit of both. Of course, the Boeing, you can sort of, goes by another name, the flex, but you get both in the Boeing as well. In any case, this gives you options to both too. The same for the climb as well. You've got climb, climb 1, climb 2, just like the Boeings there. And you can change these values here. I'm going to leave it as is, except let's derate the takeoff to something like 45 degrees, and that's going to knock us back from 107.5 to 100.4. Now if we come over to the takeoff page, you can see what this is going to result. So we've got 45 degrees on the flex there. Pax, choose. Default is actually pax off on this aircraft, but you can just type in the word on and pax on. Flaps. Unique thing about the Mad Dog, been excited to show you about this. You've got a dialer flap. And what that means is you've got a flap handle here which is flaps up and then flap 0. What's the difference between flaps up and flap 0? Well, quite simply, flaps 0 extends the slats or the leading edge flaps, but keeps your your regular flaps, your trailing edge flaps at 0. Why it doesn't just say flaps 0 and then slats or something like that is a Mad Dog ism. So up is no flaps, no slats. 0 is no flaps but slaps. The next setting is your dialer flap. How many degrees is dialer flap? Well, it depends what you dial it in here. Let's say you've got a minimum of 10 degrees, and if you dial it the other way, a maximum of 25 degrees. Once you set through that, you can see then it goes to 28 and then to 35 and then potentially to 50. Now the normal landing is at 35, but you can ask for 50 degrees if you want. Clearly you can fly a little slower, you need a lot more thrust, uses a lot more fuel to do this, but it also adds more drag. So if, you know, if landing on a short runway is your thing, you're going to have to go with 50, but under all normal conditions you can go flaps 35. Dialer flap is completely up to you. You can change this and you can actually change it as it is selected. I'm not sure if you're supposed to do that in real world, but you can do that, and I'd like to show that. But just to show that you can dial any setting, let's just spin this. In fact, I have got it bound. Let me just press it. There we go. So let's go with 19 just to see if that is going to work. And so here for your flap setting, let's go with 90. In fact, just to prove the point, you can even have the halfway. So for example, let's be really precise. Let's go with 18.5 just to show that you can also put half points in. There we go. Gives you your stab trim. Wind is not done in speed and heading. Instead, you just got to calculate how much headwind is there. So I really should have another. Where am I going to find my meters by being lazy? 80s 136,525. Let's just get it on the standby real quick, because we need this.
Runway in use 26 left. Transition level, flight level 70. Surface winds 220 degrees 5 knots. Cab OK. Temperature +8. Dew point.
Right, 260 at 5 knots. What does that mean when it's at home? 260 at 5 knots. Well, what runway heading are we on? Let's have a little look. 26. So it's a dead headwind. And so all that you need to put in is head 5. Now let's say it was 210 at 5 knots. Well, 210 at 5 knots on a runway that's 260 is going to be roughly 45 degrees off. And so you just take a third off. So if it's 5 knots, you'd maybe say it's a headwind of 3. Doesn't care for crosswind. Because it's a pure headwind, we're going to go with 5. Slope is, I just put 0 from all. Unless you know that the runway's got a specific slope, go with 0. And for a headwind of 5, we're just going to put HD05. And that now recognises we've got a headwind of 5. Outside air temperature OAT, where we're just going to use our instrumentation. To come up with that, we can see there is +9 or +9 degrees. So put in 09. You've got to put the leading 0 in or it errors. And that's going to give us our speeds. In this case, decision speed of 128. We're going to rotate at 133. And if we lose an engine on takeoff, it's going to be 145. And so we'll punch 145 in here. Turns very quickly. We've got a heading number here. What heading are we on? Well, let's have a real close look at the charts here. And 26 left. There you can see it 258 degrees. And so we'll punch that in there. So you can see there's a bit of Boeing. It's not entirely modern Airbus. There's a bit of Boeing amalgamated in these Mad Dogs. Again, that's how I would exactly describe this plane. If you take an Airbus, take the A320, take the Boeing 737, mix them together, knock the clock back 10 years, this is what you'd get. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's a lot of fun because of it. Now, it's not just, oh, it's another Airbus that was exactly the same as the last one, except slightly bigger or slightly smaller. There's a difference to it. Not least this third engine here, which controls this engine here. Alright then, so with all of that done, let's get the APU started. And so it's got this, again, a lot of automation for such an old plane. In every other aircraft, you've got to turn the APU on and then ask for power or ask for bleed air. Not so in this one. If you want APU power, Just hit APU. Is the APU instantly providing power? No. But if we come over here to the top, you'll start to notice APU is going to start booting up momentarily. Here we've got APU power as well. Let's turn that on. You can see it's flashing. Let me turn that on so I don't feel like I've got to shout over it. It's not quite ready yet, which is obvious, right? It's got to boot up. If we come down here to the engine panel, I believe, is it? Or electrics. Electrics will do. XC external power is currently supplying power. APU is not only not supplying power, but is not yet even ready. You'll know it's ready because you'll see that it's got the hertz there, you know, the alternating current. And if we come up here, see it's flashing, so it's starting up, it's booting up. Come outside. You can ever so just slightly hear it booting, cranking. I think it's about there actually. It's how do I rate that APU sound out of 10? Well, let's give it a 3. A generous 3. In terms of modeling for the... Oh, now we can hear it cranking up even more. In terms of modeling, and I realise it's night. I'm really regretting doing this at night. This aircraft looked absolutely fantastic. Although this is the first time I've seen it at night, and it'll be interesting to see some of the lighting. It really is. It's got this really old, dated look to it. Like, at a glance, it looks like it's white, say the, you know, in large part of this livery. But when you come close to it, like even now here at night, you can see there's sort of a lot of missing paint and little specks of rust and dirt and grime. It like there, you can maybe see it as well. It really, really does look good. All right, let's have a little look then. So here we see it's no longer flashing, it's available. And so where is ground power there? External power, let's disconnect that. And in theory, everything should stay alive. Before we do, let's just check that our navigation systems are done. So how do we know if they're done? If we come over to reference page, pause ref, and then page 2, here we can see we're all aligned and it's all in agreement. And so with that, we know the IRS is done, or whatever code you want to give it for this aircraft. Every aircraft has a different acronym. The gyros that spin up that lets the plane know where it is. We can disconnect ground power, and that's not going to upset the alignment. Everything now looking good. We're on our own power. Because of that, we can disconnect, if I can get the right panel, all the ground options. And so let's hit close. You will see there's a bit of a delay when I hit it. The reason for that is the animation has to play out before you see it disappear. And let's just get rid of these stairs. That side instantaneous, this side not. In fact, if we come to the... Let's just come to the outside view and see if I can show this at least partially. You can see if you look carefully, there is an open panel there, as well as here at the back. And so if we close, there you can see it closing. Same with there. You see here it still says open, and so if you're in the cockpit, you hit the button, you'd be forgiven for thinking it wasn't doing anything. It is, it's just it waits for the animation, and so just be aware of that. So let's jump back inside. We've got all our speeds in. We've got our initial V2. We've got a runway heading and our initial climb out to 6,000. And the way this panel works down here is weird, right? It doesn't light up to show you which is pressed. It lights up to show, hey, I want your attention. And so you see a MISC or miscellaneous is lit up. If you hit it, it extinguishes and the MISC panel comes onto this screen. In this case, it's complaining, hey, you've forgotten these things. And so I have windshield defog, emergency lights, and this one here is goes off when the NC engines are running. And so you've got your defog here. Again, the rest of it, dark is good. If it's lit up, it's either something unusual or a problem. Depends exactly what it is. And so that was that one. What's the other one? Oh yeah, the emergency lights. And these are found. Here we go, emergency lights. So you've got off, arm and on. And so let's put that into the arm position. And there we go, we're satisfied with that. And so let's go ask for push. And we'll put ourselves here. That's as good a place as any.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you're ready.
We're ready, old chap.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Thank you kindly. Alright, so while we're waiting for tow to pull up, let's just review our initial takeoff. So it's going to be takeoff, runway heading, and then a right turn to... Let's have a look on the departure here. Once we're after 1500, right turn, max speed 220, and then we're going to go direct to this point here, which is distance 31 from Detling. This is on the 259 radial. We got to be above 3,200 but below 4,000 at that point, still maintaining to this speed restriction. Once we're 29 miles away, we still need to be below 4,000, but we can accelerate up to 250.
All doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
And then once we're through that point, we can climb up to 5,000, and then onto Minfo, where we can climb up to 6. We can see these restrictions are put in here. Again, it's like a modern, fully RNAV capable McDo here. Got the QNH in, and he is ready. Let's go ahead and put the beacon light on. Let's have a little look what that looks like. We'll put the signs on as well. Again, there's not going to be anyone smoking and just sitting in back because it's a cargo plane, but just so it's done, let's have a little look at the lights. We can see the beacon flashing above and below the aircraft. Beacon light actually towards the rear, which is a little unusual. Usually they're directly underneath, but I guess it's the way Mad Dog is.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Now this is a parking brake and a half. Just check the clunk out on this bad boy. No mistake in that one.
And you may start engines.
Alright, so for engine start, you don't got to turn the packs off like you do in Boeing. It's more like Airbus in that regard. The only thing you got to choose here is, do you want to use System A or System B? This basically sets your aircraft ready for start. And so just because, let's use System A. But again, they both work the same way. So you hit A, you see a whole bunch of fault lights extinguish. A whole load of packs come on because, again, turns off the packs using the bleed air instead for engine start. And so let's get all the starter switches up. Those are the fuel pumps. And let's start with engine number 2. This is the centerline engine at the back. It lights up, and that lets us know engine 2 or 3, or however you want to count it. I'm going to call it 2 as the center one is cranking. That's going to be this one. Again, if it was daytime, we'd be able to see it. Maybe if you could look carefully, you can just about see we've got a rotation taking place in there. As we continue with the pushback. Looks like Better Pushback having a difficult job. Slipping and sliding a little bit. You can hear, you cannot do a dual engine start. Even once one of the engines is running, it won't let you start 2 at the same time. So I'll just start one at once. I will show you. So if you try and start 1, you see it lights up. Now if we try and start 3, notice it won't even stay lit up. So it's, again, there is a lot more automation to this aircraft than you may think for its age. It's deceptive. Certainly deceived me. Now as soon as we see this orange light go out, we can start the other engine. We don't got to wait for it to stabilize. Clearly it's going to be good practice to wait for it, but you don't have to. And there is a slight lag update to the instrumentations. Again, it's very old, early computer tech, this aircraft. If I just use my keyboard, you can see my frame rate is completely smooth, but here you can see there is a slight lag to the interface. Again, nice to see. It's just reminds you that it's an old aircraft. There we see EGT stabilizing. So let's go ahead, start number 3. And once the aircraft is started, unlike the Airbus, you get rid of the ignition systems. On this, you leave it on. And again, you choose between A and B. We'll use A for this flight. And let's ask Better Pushback to stop us there, please.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Alright, so just like before, and if you didn't see it, in fact, let's dome lights. There we go, that's going to put a bit better action. This big lever here is the parking brake. I do got it bound, but for the purposes of using a mouse so people can see, you don't got to push your wheel brakes down to use it either. You can just pull it like a car handbrake.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Okie doke. And once all 3 engines are up and running, the packs automatically come back on by themselves. There's no waiting around for it. We are now going to get rid of the APU. We no longer need it. So again, we just don't ask for the power anymore. We don't ask for the aircon anymore. And you can see there the off light is illuminated, which is to be expected. You know, if you've used the APU, it always cools down for a minute or two before extinguishing. Let's give the disconnect. We'll get rid of the dome light. Clear out the MC. Let's do a flight control check while we're waiting for this to take place. Let's come back to the MISC panel. We see there's another notification, and this will extinguish once we let go of the parking brakes. So let's come over to the config page. You can see the different tyre pressures.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Thank you very much. So you got your tyre pressures, your tyre temperatures in small air, and here you've got the aircraft config as well as the stabilizers. So if I push forward on the stick, you can see there when it's all the way forward, you get it green. If it's not green, that means it's not all the way. So pulling aft on the stick, green. If I roll to the left a little bit more, and then all the way, green. Same to the right, green when it's all the way. Same with the rudder, left boot, right boot. It's actually a 2-stage rudder for those that don't know what I'm talking about. Thankfully, we got the tail light on the situation. Hopefully, it can pick this out if I just release my camera entirely. If I start putting left rudder in, you see we've got this first stage here and then this second stage. And if we look here, if I can try and demonstrate, the second stage curls more than the first stage. Same with the other way. In fact, the reflection's probably showing it better than I can show it. It's got 2 stages to it. A unique thing, certainly in my experience. I don't think I've got another aircraft that does it like that. Again, nice to see. Alright, so with that flight control checks complete, there is no takeoff check button. You do have the caution there, and so we can see that's working, so that's good to know. And so, much like the Boeings there, you need to get that squared away before you can take off. If you hear that on the runway, you're supposed to immediately abort the takeoff. In any case, let's get auto brake RTO. That's going to be good first stage. The flap handle to 0, and then to dial a flap. And if we come over here, there you can see the leading edge flaps extending. And if we drop back here, here's the trailing edge. Kind of hard to see in this light. Let's now assume we're ready for taxi. I guess it's a bit dark. So you've got your runway turn-offs there. Here's your taxi light, nose light from off to taxi to land. Again, nav lights are on by default. Logo is on when it's on. Beacon is off when it's on. And here you got your high intensity, which are your strobe lights. Alright, so with that done, external lighting actually looks really good. Again, it's the first time I've seen this at night. I miss my wing lights, but again, with no sort of passenger windows, maybe it's superfluous to requirements. I always like the wing lights, you know, lit up from the top. Yeah, that is a usable taxi light, more than usable. Alright, let's set this from plan back to the map mode. And everything's set here, we're set here. Gotta arm the spoilers. You get, like an Airbus, Boeing, you don't bother with this. On the Mad Dog you do. So pull that handle up, that's armed. And now we're good to go. And so let's release parking brakes. Big solid clunk. And let's put power on. And you'll find with this, once you're rolling, you can go idle power, and you're constantly going to be using the brakes because this just gets faster and faster. It's not like some of these ridiculous sims where it accelerates to like 5-6 knots and then magically stays there. This accelerates and accelerates. It's very easy to skid on the nose wheel, so if you're using the tiller like I am, be careful to make slow movements as you'd expect with a big heavy plane. You can't just instantly change the trajectory of the nose wheel, and you may want to use differential braking, left and right pedal, to take advantage of that. Alright, so let's just crack on with it now. Enough of the intro. So I'm going to taxi right on out to 26 left here. So ahead on Sierra, left on Juliet, all the way to the end, and then right on Mike. So scratch that. Ahead on Sierra, left on Juliet, right on Mike, and then Mike 1 onto 26 left. I'll see if I can remember that. Chance would be a fine thing. So let's focus on this. So here we are, coming to the end. Here's Juliet. We want to be left on. And again, I'm using a bit of differential braking just to help it into the turn, and then using the tiller to keep the turn going.
Shannon 247, ready for taxi. 1247, holding point Mike 1, 26 left, via Alpha November and Mike.
BA 3276, ready for push and start.
And let's feel the pilot feedback. Brake, Shamrock 247, holding point Mike 1, 26 left, via Alpha November and Mike.
Holding point Mike 1, via Alpha November and Mike, Shamrock 247.
And station for push, say again the call sign.
Now they do use this runway for taxiing now at Gatwick, so they use Juliet for taxiing one way and the runway for taxiing the other. So I don't know if they're ever going to officially get rid of this runway and literally designate it as Alpha November, which is now what it's called. You can see we're really getting our speed up here, 32, 33, so we're really a bit too fast for ground, so let's slow down. You can see planes are stacking up for departure here out of Gatwick today.
Rock 247, there is no further ATC, I'm afraid. Continue for your call with altitude decimal 8. Have a great evening.
Continue to Unicom, altitude decimal 8.
Sounds like kids in the cockpit over there. Let's turn that down a bit now. So we set ourselves up for night departures. Alright, so initial impressions with this module. Bearing in mind, I own about 50 across a range of sims. Got real world flight experience, 2 aircraft solo, a whole bunch of them, otherwise not. And I want to say that because people can just say anything, and a lot, I mean, so many people do, right? And a lot of people have got no baseline to compare it to, which is fine. That doesn't invalidate their experiences. It just... I'm going to turn that down a bit. It just gives, you know, you've got to I just lend a little bit more weight to somebody that's got something to compare it to. In any case, this aircraft, as far as I'm aware, existed for X-Plane 11 for some time. I did not own it for X-Plane 11. I bought X-Plane 12 the day it came out. Again, big time simmer. And this became available for X-Plane 12 within the last week or so. I decided to buy it. And it's up there with the best. If you own the Tolis 1921 or A340, or you'll maybe know the 737 that's for free, made by Zebo, that is as good as any payware, then you'll know, what modules are capable of. Is this as good as the Zebo and the Tolis? Yeah, it is. First impressions, it is that good. Sound-wise, it's certainly not as good as the Zebo. It's maybe on par-ish with the Tolis if you don't get the sound upgrades for the Tolis. It's maybe not even as good as the Tolis. Again, the sounds are okay. They're okay. That's what it sounds like outside right now. Again, you're going to have to forgive these smaller aircrafts beneath me. I'm playing invisible. Let's see if we can squash them entirely. See if we can swallow them up. This is classified as a heavy, and so you're well within your rights, depending on how much cargo you got in, to append heavy onto your call sign when you're dealing with ATC. And I believe the... What was it? Was it for... I can't remember. Is it £400,000 or £500,000 anyway? You can easily come to that weight. Clearly it has no real impact in the game because heavy or otherwise, other planes don't experience weight turbulence. That said, you may wish to request for a high-speed climb. And let's get the TCAS banging. Default squawk, by the way, in this aircraft, 1776. Interesting. Alright, so with that, let's get the weather radar on as well. And with that aircraft departing, let's line up and wait. So with that, with the transponder banging, let's get the high intensity lights on. Let's get the landing lights on, taxi light off. And this is what we got now. That aircraft beneath us. He's turning early. I'm going to give it the wide swing it deserves. Look at those high intensity lights. That's what they're talking about, high intensity lights, when you see it on the charts. The HILS. There you go. Alright, so we're position and wait.
Drone will be back in 2 minutes.
Let's see if we get the... See, it's flashing WEX on or weather on. That's because it knows you're on the ground. Wait on wheels, you've got weather on. Well, we want weather on because we're about to take off. But if you were to land or turn it on accidentally, this is going to let you know, and it's a nice little reminder. Again, don't really impact things in a game. We're not going to irradiate some dude stood there on the taxiway, but because it's a game, but it is what it is. All right, let's take off, see if we get him on a TCAS, just out of interest. I don't know. All right, 3, 2, 1 then. Let's assume we've been cleared for takeoff, so I'm going to release my brake pedals. Nose light on takeoff. We've got the timer here. I'm going to hit that. There we see the timer going. Let's wind up the engines. And I forgot to set my trim, so I'm just going to pull the trim back real quick to get it in the green. It's on the display here, just so we don't get the takeoff warning. And let's hit my toga. There is a toga switch. Let's hit it. And hit auto flight. We've got takeoff mode, pitch, takeoff thrust set. I'm going to guess that's V1 and there's rotate, just guessing, pulling back on the stick. Wheels up. Alright, let's turn the sounds down a tad, turn the radios down further. And you see we've got the traditional magenta crosshairs there, or the flight directors. Passing 2.5. Let's push that up. Let's get FMC speed, nav, and profile in. And that's going to set our flight directors according to the, not the takeoff setting, but the flight path setting. There is no automatic transition between the two like in the modern Airbuses. And there's our instruction to turn right. And so I'm going to turn it to the right. And at this point I'm going to go from flaps, dial the flaps setting to flaps 0 by changing the flap handle. You hear it clicking over. And looks like we've already slightly exceeded our restriction there. So let's push the nose over even further. Whoa, diving a little bit now. Just be wary retracting flaps in a turn. It always catches me out. If I hit autoflight a second time, that's going to put the autopilot on. I'm going to switch it to nav 1 actually. So again, if you hit it again and again, it just switches between nav 1 and nav 2.
Traffic, traffic, traffic.
And there we go. I was hoping to get a jip whiz by chasing this guy out, and there we got it. And so that's in regards to this guy that we took off incredibly close to him. So let's pull the plug here again like Airbus and dial that up and see if we can get another traffic caution.
Traffic, traffic, traffic.
So let's see what happens if we continue to get closer. So let's go flaps up and continue to accelerate. Again, being a bit naughty, going up to 260. Come on. You see he's on the same departure that we're on by coincidence, which is nice because it means we can chase him. And again, with me not really being online, as in I am online but I'm in observer mode, means I can chase this guy. Now it looks like he's been given a climb there, and so we're going to have to climb as well. And let's go. Let's do it manually so we can chase the guy, and I'm with that going to get rid of my external lights because we're accelerating here. Let's get rid of the turn-offs. Logo light as well. Nav light beacon, high intensity must remain on. And let's get signs to automatic. Now this guy's racing because I dialed in 308. You see we're about there. We're below 10. And we're struggling to catch up with this guy. I mean, it's not too far ahead of us, but he's ahead of us. Tay557. Unwittingly taking part in this little video. Thank you. Regardless. And looks like 4,000 feet is the max we can climb at. Aircraft able to do it without any difficulty because again we're quite light. Now we need to keep the climb going. Pull the plug once again. Let's increase speed even more. Every time you increase speed, it's still set to your old previous, so every time you change it, you've got to pull it. You know, like in the Airbus, when you're overriding the automatic speed, it's like that, but every time. So you see now we've got 325. If I dial it even more, I've got to then pull it again to confirm. And just as you'd expect, you've got your FMC there. That's like pushing it in on the Airbus. If you push it here, it just syncs up with whatever it is at the time. But one thing about the Mad Dog, it can fly incredibly fast, and so let's use that to our advantage. You can see we're at max climb thrust here. It's actually still at takeoff thrust. Performance. Are we not in climb thrust? Let's get auto flight again. Just takeoff flex 45. Alright, so I'm a little confused now. Again, I'm no mad dog expert. I've already got a 40 odd knot tailwind. And this guy is no longer ahead. Well, he's ahead, but he's no longer above. So let's reduce the climb some. And let's continue climbing up to 34. Thrust limits, what we got set here weren't climb, so let's switch to climb. Return to performance climb. This, I guess, is going to do it automatic. Oh, where are we? Where's automatic? Auto, there we go. That's what I was looking for. So you can see we're getting quite close to the barber pole here. Continuing to climb. Looks like this guy is slightly to our right, which he is. That's because we've got a wind coming in from the left. So he's actually dead ahead of us with regards to our track. But we're not really heading this way, even though it looks like it, we're actually heading this way. So the higher we get, the closer to the barber pole we're going to get at 350 unless we switch over to max. So these guys are really pushing it. Like this guy, in my opinion, was breaking all the speed limits. Unless he was given permission for a high speed climb, he was busting the limits because we were busting the limits. Again, we're in observer mode, so it doesn't matter. And we're not catching up. If we hit TCAS mode, looks like we actually have to hit TCAS in order to see it. You can see he's 1,500 feet above us, and this is only, TCAS is only up to 10 here. So you can see he's about 5 and a bit miles. We are slowly catching up with him though. Alright. Let's do away with the radios almost entirely now. I'm going to turn that down as well. So if you have a little look here at the cockpit, it is all working. At least everything that has anything with regards to the function. So the circuit breakers work like most modules? No. There is a circuit breaker light though somewhere, which actually looks pretty good. The dial was somewhere a little out the way. I found it earlier just by coincidence. Let me get my aviation flashlight and see if I can find it. Was it this one? Yeah, there we go. Circuit breaker light. Now that is just a nice touch for nighttime flying. Again, it serves no purpose, but it's colourful. And, you know, in real life, you would hope the crew would never really have to use these, or very rarely maybe one, to unplug a problematic system that was overheating or whatever it was, but generally not. Now one thing, again, how much of this is XP12, how much is this module, I don't know. If we take a look here at the throttle, auto throttle would not be doing that. Yes, it moves it back and forwards, especially in turbulence, but you can see every so often it's doing this weird little wobbly thing. It wouldn't be doing that. There, that weird wobbly thing, it just wouldn't. It moves quite slow auto throttle, probably even a bit slower than you see it doing there. Yes, does it chase it in real life if the speed is going up and down because of turbulence or winds or whatever? Yeah, it does. Looks like this guy's dropped off entirely, which is what it is. So let's get rid back into map mode. We'll push the range out. And let's jump over to Mach number now. Push that to sync it up. And that's the speed we're currently doing, Mach 7.3. And again, if you want to go according to the profile, just hit that. And that's going to fly profile speed. See, it's set to thrust, nav 2. Let's get that back over to nav 1. And same with the climb. Get it, press prof. That's going to get rid of the vertical speed and just climb. That's basically your LNAV, VNAV stuff sorted there. Or managed climb, as it would be called in the Airbus more now. Alright, flight plan. So we're on the way. Oh, there's that guy again. I guess he just dropped off the TCAS for whatever reason. Still nice and close. And look at this, we've got some turbulence here. These 88 knot winds. We've got bit of wind shear and change in speed up at 23,000, causing us to rock around. Seatbelt signs staying on for sure in such a condition. Again, it's a cargo plane, so it don't really matter. Smoking should already be on auto, which it is. Again, you got your traditional flight column. Let's put thunderstorm lighting on, so we can see what we're doing despite being night. So we do got the weather on here, so let's turn that on and brighten it up so that you can see the weather, you know, your traditional XP12 weather there. Say traditional, I mean like it's been out for ages. It hasn't, it's relatively new. See, actually there is some sort of pixelation to it, which does make it look a little better with regards to the old aircraft. Yeah, just some very mild weather there that in real life I don't think would show up at all like this. I think XP12 is a little eager to show that there is something going on versus nothing. Let's see, anything else? I think that's it for now. So if we take a little look, while we take this gear handle, by the way, doesn't have an off position. It's up or down, that is it. And here, if we take a look, you see what the autopilot is doing. So if we look carefully, we can see it is using the rear stabilizers a little bit, and every so often a little bit of rudder as well. I guess it's using the rudder when the wind suddenly changes direction. There you see it to try and dampen the yaw. But here, very much using the elevator controls. Here you got the stab trim. And if we take a look on the fuel page here, see how much fuel each of the three engines has used. Makes sense. The middle one that we started first has used slightly more than this one. Then this one we started last has used the least. You can see how much fuel we've got in each of the tanks. No fuel in the center or the additional tanks. The auxiliary, the tail tank. It does sometimes, depending on how much fuel you got, it does automatically move fuel around during flight to keep the aircraft balanced in the most fuel efficient way. So if you've got a lot of fuel, let's say if each one of these tanks had 30,000 pounds in, 1, 2, 3, it would start pumping fuel into the tail tank once you're in cruise, because it's more efficient to have weight in the back of the aircraft for cruise, even though it's less stable, and so it'll pump that fuel back into the front for takeoff and landing. All happens by itself automatically. It's a clever system. Again, you can dump fuel just using this switch here. It automatically sets everything up the way it needs to be. It's very easy to do. There was no visual effects for the fuel dump, unfortunately. I did try it earlier, but it's very easy to do. So again, you just turn it on. Providing here the system's automatic. You look down, we get the fuel dump caution light coming on momentarily. It's just a case of waiting. If I remember right, or do I gotta press it? Let's have a little look. Manual. Okay, you can see the dump taking place. Look at the fuel draining out of these tanks real quick. There you see we got the caution lights, including the fuel dump. Play out the MC. Don't want to leave that on for too long, because look how quick that is draining out of all three tanks. Looks like not more than a couple of minutes and that's going to empty me out. So let's close that, and again, if you change anything in a way that you don't like, worry not, just hit this and it takes care of everything for you. Real nice. Same with the packs. Take it into manual, change something here, shut off, engine 1 bleed, back to automatic, wait for the valves to open, and everything back to normal. Same with the electrics. Let me not pull anything too essential here. I'm not really sure what I can mess with there. Let's, for some reason, Gen 2. You see you got your manual, so that reminds you. So let's switch to manual. Let's unplug Gen 2. So Gen 1 and Gen 3 is going to take over. Bus tie should take care of any glitches for us. Automatic's going to get it back on. Same for the hydraulics. I think I've made the point. Manual. Auto. You can see once again the delay in the system here. Look at the trend vector. It looks like it's about 3 or 4 frames a second. Again, you got to realize it's a very, old software in the computer system. So actually getting buffeted a huge amount, considering we're at 34,000 feet. I've flown hundreds of times in real life, and never have I been buffeted like this up in cruise, ever. Experienced turbulence on occasion, sometimes a lot, but it typically happens either near the airport or when you're lower down, or sometimes going through clouds, but usually pilots avoid those type of clouds. I guess if it's covered in it, they've maybe got no choice up to a point. But certainly at cruise, this here is and look at it. Massive tailwind, 100 and some knot tailwinds as we continue on this right hand turn. That's going to really help with our flight time. In fact, we're already well past the channel, crossing over into northern France, I imagine, Belgium area. In fact, let's have a little look. Let's come over here to the maps view. This is Avitab, nothing to do with this module. Anybody with Avitab, which is free, can use this. Navigraph, clearly you need your Navigraph subscription. Yeah, so look at this, we're already across. There's the UK. Here's clearly the channel here. We got France, Belgium, Netherlands. Here's Germany. And as to be expected, we're on the airway, in this case the Upper Lima 607. See, we're following that. Slightly offset to the side due to the wind. You can see it's blowing us from the left, and so we're having to point slightly nose left to keep going straight. And so, how does this module... I'm trying to think of any others. Other than the sound, I'm a little disappointed with some of the sounds. The lighting in the daytime is very poor. Lighting at night is actually very good. It's not the best I've seen, but it's above average, I would say. In terms of how well do the controls respond, by that I mean, I don't know if you've flown the Phoenix A320 for Microsoft Flight Sim. There's a lot of clicking and then clicking again because the mouse didn't quite get it right, and you thought you clicked it and you have to click again in the exact same place, then it works. There is none of that in this aircraft. It works completely flawlessly. The middle mouse wheel lets you manipulate all the controls in the way that you would expect. For example, here I'm using my mouse wheel. Also, you can click as long as the arrow's pointing the right way, but you can use the mouse wheel with the arrow in either direction as you'd expect. Same with stuff like this, mouse wheel as well as a click. I really like it. Do I like the McDonnell Douglas? Well, this is my only experience with it, this simulation. I have to say, I'm surprised why people are doing away with it. It is as automated as the Airbus. In fact, if you count for the fact you don't even need to start the APU, it does it automatically on demand. All of this is automatic by default. It's as automated as the latest Airbus, which is insane. it's very, very fast. I mean, look at this. We're cruising at Mach 0.818. Clearly, there's a bit more room for the speed. Obviously, with the turbulence, don't really want to get any closer to that barber pole. But if you look at our trend there, about 288, max speed 310. So we could pile on another 20 knots in stable air, which would, I don't know what that would equate in Mach number here. And also you can climb higher in this than most. So we've got, what's this here, 80 miles. So we've got certainly another 100, 110 to go. So let's do a little step. Let's see if we can get to, look at that, you can even set it to 43. Let's see if we can get there. So let's push sets it to your current height. Okay, so let's pull it and go profile. Cruise level above max. I wonder what max flight level is then. 44,000 optimum. Max saying it's 43. Mind you, we are heading east as well, so it should be 43. So let's rig it to 43. And with regards to climb, I guess we're going to get there pretty quick actually. So let's see if that, oh my god, I suppose we were right up against a red line. We've got a commotion here, cabin pressure relief. So let's press the air, you see it's red. I'm guessing this is because we're cruising higher than initially intended, and the cabin pressure on the hull, if you like, due to the pressurized cabin, is getting dangerously high. We've got a cabin rate of 1,200 feet, which is very high per minute. That's probably to keep us safe. See, cabin altitude is 6,000 feet. Got your 3 engines, all cap in bleed air. You've got 3 packs, 1, 2 and 3, each one being fed independently. You can see and cross bleed between engines 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 on the center packs, and looks like entirely cross bleed between 3 and 1 as well, independent of engine 2. And so there's a lot of redundancy built in. We've got the temperatures here. See, actually one of the cargo holds here kind of warm, 35. Forward cargo bay down to 4 degrees, rear cargo bay 23. You can of course put heating on in some of these and change it. So let's try cooling the aft one down to cold. I guess that's where you'd want your animals if you were carrying them, livestock. See there, duct pressure cooling down as you'd expect. Trying to aim for 18 degrees now. Cockpit 24, which is probably a little too warm. Let's turn them all down a bit. And again, most modules let you tinker around with stuff like that. Look at the pack temperature, -1, to try and help get it cooled down. I'm not sure it would pump freezing air through the system, but you never know. Certainly something I've never seen before. Alright, so look at that, as quick as that, we're approaching 43,000 feet. We can hear an MC with regards to stabilizer. So every time stabilizer starts moving by itself, because you've not got that big clanky spinning wheel, you had your runaway trims where the crew were aware of it because of a lack of a wheel. They added that caution sound in. So whenever there's more than just the minutest movement of the stabilizer, you get an audio annunciation like that, if the autopilot's doing it. Now look at this, it's getting us very close to the barber pole. Air much more stable up here than it was down at 30 some. Now cruising at 43,000 feet, you're not going to be able to do that in the typical Boeing or Airbus. Most of them have got a 410 club, but under almost all conditions, you're not going to get there either. And with that, we're approaching near top of descent. You can see we've got our VOR there, Spee, and it wants us to start descending somewhere between Remba and Spee. Bearing in mind, this is, if we come over to the plan, I'm so used to the dial to switch to the plan. Push buttons for zoom as well. This descent profile is based on the fact that we run all the way out here and then get pulled across at the end. If ATC was to pull us across early, we'd be really high. And in real life, you would be listening out on comms. You'd know vaguely how busy it was anyway, based on what day of the week and time of day. But you'd be listening on comms, and if you were hearing they were pulling aircraft across, typically here, then here, then here, you would prepare your descent accordingly. So rather than having your height all the way to the end, you'd be getting ready to be pulled across from here to here. Again, it's a lot easier to add a little bit of power for a couple of minutes than to suddenly try lose 5,000 feet at a moment's notice. Not as fuel efficient to add a power on lower down than higher up, but it's certainly more fuel efficient than riding the boards for 5 minutes, getting spun off because you're far too high and having to come round again. And somewhere like Frankfurt, you know, you might not want to. You can always deny a shortcut, but when it's busy, you won't want to deny a shortcut because they're trying to sequence everybody in. So denying your slot, you know, who knows when you next get sequenced, right? Again, assuming it's busy. If it's not busy, it doesn't matter anyway. And so let's assume that it's going to be a Delta Fox 411, and that's going to rig us up with Delta Fox 621. So let's take this as an example. So here we got Delta Fox 411, and next waypoint we're looking for Delta Fox 621. Let's assume that's what we're going to get. So it's Delta Fox 621. And so if we rig that up, there we can see the connection it's going to make. That looks good. Now this, it didn't auto delete the rest of the waypoints, which is unfortunate. So after the disco, we're looking for lead key. Do I really got to delete all of those? I guess so. So let's delete the first lot then. At least there's a disco, making it a bit easier to see. And then we're going down to 621. So quite a ball ache to manipulate the flight plan in that regard. Was there an easier way? Well, I did the way that I'm used to do. And so now we got that little shortcut in. Let's have a look now if we switch back to map. Where's top of descent? Well, I'm guessing we've already crossed through it, and we have. There is no obvious descend now, you're high. If we take a look at profile, cruise above max flight. Whoa. Whoa, shit. Didn't want to do that. Hopefully they didn't have time to extend. So that's something. Don't be lazy and do what I did with the camera and trying to use this, because you'll end up pulling the flap handle. Progress page, maybe. It's not actually making it obvious if I'm too high or not. let's see if the fixes work. Can we put the airport in as a fix? Let's find out. Yeah, we can. That's nice. And what we got here? Bearing and range, I'm guessing. Can you just exclude the range? So let's... I'm guessing you want a slash. So let's try it. Can we just put like a 100-mile ring like that? No. What about... What if we don't want a bearing, we just want a range ring, or maybe it doesn't let you. So let's... What if we just put 100 in? That's the same as what I just did. Alright, so what about 100 slash 100? Just says no intercepts. How do I do a range ring then? Don't say I can't. There we go. So what this is, it looks like you can only do bearings, and it's going to give you a range based on your what's in your flight plan. So if we go 120, 133, yeah, so you can see 88. There is no intercept. Okay, 155. Yeah. Okay. Not worth... At least my little brain struggling with that. I like to have either a range ring or a bearing with a range. Speaking of which, can you do custom waypoints? Let's find out. So lead key. I'm just going to tempt one in here. Let's see if we can do it. So... lead key, let's do it the Airbus way first, see if that works. Then we'll try the Boeing way if it doesn't. So lead key, 100 degrees, let's say for 25 miles. Let's pump that in there. PDG, so yes, you can put a custom waypoint in. Like that. Well, that was easy then. So it's the Airbus way of doing custom. What's happened to the speed? It's run out. Let's start descending them. Now it says idle clamp. What this means is you can pull the throttle back. By the way, that's a nice touch. See that orange there? That orange is where I've actually got my throttle, so you can sort of, it can help you sync your throttle up with where the throttle really is. And if they're out of position, you're going to get this orange thing. So that's a nice touch. So this feels like we're in the open descent. Let's just shoot for 300 knots. And let's make this a nice quick approach. Yeah, look at this. We're way, way, way too high. According to this, for 25,800 feet too high. Assuming this is measured in hundreds like it usually is. Yeah, look at this. It's limited by the max speed, which is again nice. It won't let you do anything illegal. That's it, illegal. Dangerous. It can be illegal. Right, let's keep descending. Now we're getting into the parasitic areas. I want 290. There we go, we've got it now. And that's going to stick with 290 all the way down unless we change it. Of course, the barber pole is going to get further away the thicker the air gets. Barber pole about 300 knots already. To give you an idea on speed. We are cruising. Not quite as fast as a 747, but it's not far off. We're Mach 85, and we could still go further if we wanted. Again, we could... how fast can we go now? Every time we get nearer, the barber pole moves further away. I'm guessing how far away is the barber pole? Mach 864, so fast at this particular height. I'm not sure if that is going to reduce as we get lower, we shall see. But it's currently the max speed. And let's continue descent, flight plan page 1. Let's keep descending down to 12. If you want to go profile again, the LNAV, VNAV, just hit Prof. And if you want to go profile speed, so-called manage speed, manage heights, hit that. Add drag. Look at that, first time I'm seeing that, so it wants me to put the boards up. You've got a couple of settings here. They are very small boards, but extremely effective. A bit too dark to see, so let's stick to it. Cockpit, let's get thunder lights on again. And if we get config on, I wonder if it shows us putting the boards up there, so I guess I should unarm the to begin with, and let me pull the speed brakes. And yeah, look at that. That's setting 1, so let me go speed brake setting 2. And speed brake setting 3. There we go, that's full. And look at the impact that's had based on our speed. We're able to dump height big time. Look at that, it's off the scale, it's so fast. And now we're able to decelerate speed and lose 3,000 feet a minute, which is again very effective boards. So if I stow these, it's just arms them. Again, it's easy, I have it bound, it's easier if I just use my bindings. Auto brake off. Actually got a caution for that. Does it want you to ride with the... Oh, that's regards to this here. Still had it in RTO mode. So that's like a Boeing, you've got to come out of RTO mode manually. Airbus obviously knows to do that. You've got to do it yourself. Go auto brake minimum for Frankfurt. Let's get that set up here and now. And we've still got 20 knot tailwind, so nothing like what it was higher up. Yes, we've exited or departed the jet stream. Let's get a bit, turn the radio chatter up a little bit. EDF north 12080. So many controllers on right now, so many people online, it's insane. $136.5. Do you know the first time there was ever more people flying on VATSIM versus real life? The first time it ever happened was during the COVID lockdown. But if you look now at peak times, and by peak times I'm talking gaming times, like Friday evenings, Saturday evenings, especially on Sunday afternoons and evenings, it looks like it's regularly beating real traffic, certainly over Europe. In fact, for those, let me see if I can just show you briefly how many we got on. Let me see if I can bring up a map real quick. It's a little convoluted because it's showing controllers as well. But if you take a look at that, you've got, you see UK top left. Yeah, I realise it's turning from a bit of review into what's going on right now. But look at all the controllers at Frankfurt. Man, I've never seen so many controllers on at one airport. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 controllers. Is that 15 or 16? Anyway, that is insane. You've got pretty much wall-to-wall center coverage as well. So if you were departing Gatwick right now, you've got your ground, your ATIS, your tower, your approach, then you've got center. As long as you were flying over this area, there's no center at Schiphol, which is kind of weird because there's 6 controllers on at Schiphol. You've got wall-to-wall coverage from... Holy jeez, man, you could fly a long way. Wall-to-wall coverage. Got a tiny little gap here preventing wall-to-wall down to Sicily, but that's insane. Alright, that clicking sound is just to remind me so I don't forget to bring us back into X-Plane. So there we go. Right, this is an X-Plane 12 issue. It's been an issue for a while. You get flickery clouds sometimes. It's worse during the day because you get like a disco effect. And come over to the weather station. You can see exactly what's causing it. You've got the sky weather clouds here flickering back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's causing that weird effect that you sometimes get. So if you get it yourself, don't bother changing your graphics settings. It's not to do with them. It's a weather system. And again, it's still early access, is X-Plane 12. Right, so let's start rigging ourselves up for landing. We're currently descending through 17 down to 12. We are managed across the board. I was looking left then for the tablet, but it's not going to be there. It's going to be here. So let's get rid of the Gatwick stuff. That's miles behind us, literally. And which one is it now? EDFF in it? Now it's EDDF. I do forget the UK and Germany's back to front. I should really remember it, but let's turn the aircraft sounds down. Let's turn radios up a bit. Let's get into the spirit of it for this landing. We got 2 radios in. Delta Fox 622, so you can hear we were pulling ourselves over at 621. You can hear there they were getting pulled over at 622. And for those wondering what the heck is he on about, let's start with our arrival, which is the Anuka 3 Alpha. I like that it shows your star over the waypoints, like the, again, Airbus does. Boeing doesn't do that, and it's such a useful thing. So here's the Anuko's 3 Alphas. And so we come down here from, surprise, surprise, Anuko. We're going to shoot along here. And again, we already pulled ourselves across at 411, which is this point here. You see, potentially this extends all the way out here. And the approach controller can pull them across at any time. Again, we're shooting 25 left, so let's come over to the approach page as well. 25 left, I'll just turn that down a tad. And so here you see these waypoints, 622, 623, and so on and so forth. There's 621, that's where we're pulling ourselves across. We just heard the approach controller pull whoever across from here to here. So I'm guessing he'll have been at Delta Fox 412 and he's going to get pulled across because all of these match up. The second digit always matches up. So you got 621 that matches up with 411. 412 is going to match up with 22. Delta Fox 623 is going to match up with 413 and so on all the way. And this allows them to continuously, no matter how planes are coming in, they can stack the final real dense. Get, you know, every 30, 40 seconds, whatever the 45, I forget exactly. Rog down to 9. I'm just messing. I'm on an observer. See, we burnt through the max EGT, so if you burn through the max temps, it keeps it on screen until you completely shut down, and you cannot clear that out during flight, as, again, it's basically, if you've broken the rules, the pilot can't shut it up and pretend it never happened. It is a stain on the electronic flight datas, and that will be when we max manual powered it at whichever phase was that when we were I can't remember when we did that now, but but we did. So here we are, descending speed and altitude, automatically reducing speed as we're about to descend or drop through 10,000.
Thank you.
Transfer the arrival of the Mexicano to Germany at flight level 140, descending 110, inbound Sierra.
Boston 2 Kilo, rather than low information, Victor, expect Dallas Yankee runway 25 right.
Yankee, Yankee 25 right, Boston to Mexicano, and information request current.
Info whiskey. I don't actually have the info and I need it, so let's see if we can grab it real quick. We need to be 118.025, so let's have a little listen, see if we can grab that real quick. So let's switch that in, let's shut the other guy up.
Wind 300 degrees, 4 knots, variable between 240 and 020 degrees. Visibility 10 kilometers in the vicinity.
Let's continue descending down to 4 per the profile.
2.8. QNH 1011.
Alright, it's QNH 1011, so let's dial that in. And again, if you pull it standard, you don't got to push it, you can just dial it. I think it was 1011.
Expect vectors for independent parallel ILS approach runway 25 left and ILS Y.
Alright, we're dropped below 10, we're below 250. Let's get the landing lights on, turn off lights ready, logo light on 2, and
0 degrees, 4 knots, variable between 240 and 020 degrees. Visibility 10 kilometers in the vicinity, shower, no cloud base available. Temperature 9, 2.8. QNH 1011.
alright, 1011, that's confirmed, so let's switch back to the approach. Alright, and let's queue up the tower, which is going to be center 118.775.
Victor, expecting ILS Yankee 25 Earth, easy for the land.
Speak 25 Sonar.
25 Sonar,
Survey 11 Kilo, speak 25 Sonar. Speak 25 now, Survey 11 Kilo. Survey 11 Kilo, descend 5 tower, pit QNH 1011. 5000 pit QNH 1011 for Survey 11 Kilo.
Alright, ILS, let's use the backup system. Standby. What's it giving us? 115.246. Weird, it says 247 there, but we got 246. It's within 1 degrees discrepancy, so that's fine.
127.275.
127.275, legend, ladder, money, cheers.
Ciao.
Alright, so there's the stabilizer. Let's turn engine aircraft sounds up. And yeah. So coming into land, by no means is this a tutorial, guys. It's a review, stroke thoughts, stroke opinion, stroke... Let's say first impressions, it's not really. It's a second or third. Again, I bought it yesterday. But overall, really, really impressed with it. Let's have a little look. So you can open the door, and again, here's the cargo as you'd expect. It's dark. Flashlight, maybe you can just see. We've got a couple of doors in the cargo bay just behind cockpit door. Oxygen masks. A tiny little galley. A toilet. And here the cargo netting. And the cargo. Right, let's get rid of that. Back in the cockpit. Alright, so we're getting close now. We're currently parallel with the runway. If you take a look out the right window, there's Frankfurt Airport down there. Just a few clouds between us and them. Look at all those! Oh my goodness. That's like an event. How many guys is there? Oh my goodness, maybe there is an event. I didn't look. Holy moly. Be prepared to have a wait if you're asking for clearance or whatnot. Bag at least £2,000 additional fuel. Alright, so we're carrying on to descent now. At 205 knots, let's get the takeoff. What's happened here? Some sort of reset at some point. Performance. Flight plan. Takeoff. And so we got speed. So we've got a VAP of 144. You see it's defaulting to 35 on the flaps. You can go to 50. That gives us a VAP of 139. We're going to go with 35 typical. 144. Landing speed 139. We'll see what we can do.
Descend.
Oh, we got a TCAS
Clear of conflict.
advisory. Descend now. Thankfully, we didn't have to. You see, it's slowing us right down now. Let's pull for 220. Turn it down a tad. And let's have a little look what height we got to be for where. Lead key 4000, which is the next waypoint after Delta Fox 621. 621 we just need to be 4 or above. And after that we begin 3 degree down and minimums is going to be 200. We'll go in category, you know, no special circumstances, just category 1. Not sure if it's category 3 capable or category 3A, but certainly can do cat 1. In any case, where's the minimums? Where do we put the minimums in? Ah, here we go, minimums. So you got your radio and your barometric, but it's already set to 200. Let's just, yeah, 200 on the radar. Push to reset. Just sets it back to 200 radar, I guess. Or maybe not. Well, in any case, $200 radar. Alright, so here we go. We're continuing to descend down to 4,000. Bit of turbulence again. See the weather here, not too much. And I assume it's got terrain as well. Where are we here? Map. But I can't see it for the wood for the trees. Come on, where is it? Traffic data, waypoint, VORs, NDBs, airports, map. Weather, TCAS, VOR. Maybe it doesn't have a terrain map. I would have thought it did. Maybe it does and I'm just not seeing it.
Traffic.
Alright, so that's that guy. Yeah, look, it's cramming him in. Well, we're going to get crammed in. Alright, I'm going to shut up reviewing. Let's focus on the landing. Bringing us right onto the ALS, real nice. Let's go managed. India Fox Sierra Whiskey on the ID. Let's verify that. India Fox Sierra Whiskey. ILS is ID'd and confirmed. 14.5 DME. Not yet in sight. We got some weather. Glide slope not yet active. Localizer is active.
Only 127.275 Lufthansa 270. What is your Papa hold your left November 1.
Traffic.
Right, so that's a guy behind us, maybe a little bit close.
Traffic.
What is India left Papa hold your left November 1. Left Papa hold your
If we grab TCAS, so you can see we're put right in between these two guys.
Bravo, good evening, Nordic 35, descending flight 110.
Traffic.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit close.
Direct Delta Foxtrot 411 and
Delta Fox 411, so that's right where we came across. So you can start building this mental picture in your mind's eye of everything that's going on. See as the speed's going, you've got, if you pulled up to that point you'd stall with the speed, and every time the turbulence rocks obviously you can pull up more or less. Alright, runway in sight, let's pull it. Let's arm the approach. Feels to me like we're too high, but let's disconnect the autopilot. I'm going to fly it down from here on. I'm not yet seeing a glide slope for some reason. Oh, there we go, glide slope. We're way above the glide slope. My bad. Let's get the boards out. I messed that one big time. Says here we're on profile. Now it's saying we're below profile. Clearly we're not. Let's do some manoeuvring here. A bit of side slip now. Let's see if that helps us slow down. I've got max side slipping. Oh, can I save it? But we're below 250. Let's dump the gear for additional drag. It's not looking good. I messed that up good and proper, didn't I? Auto throttle at the worst possible time. Can I save it? By the way, if you're ever high and dry, go round. I've just shown you why. Reversers are out. Let's turn that off. Alright, well, I'm reviewing the module, but a review of my flight, well, it started okay and went downhill from there. But no. Let's be honest with this. Fantastic module. I'm not entirely sure what went wrong at the end there, why we were left high. Was it because I was giving it too many shortcuts and the old style FMC just couldn't compute? Yeah, in real life, you should really be on top of that, you know. Again, you can say, oh, well, it was the autopilot's fault, but really the pilot should stay on top of it. Should it have really put us on height or given us some sort of message it wasn't doing? I would say yeah. But again, very early access stuff. Alright, we've vacated the runways, so let's get rid of those. And landing lights can come off as well. Nose light to taxi position. Turn off lights remain on. Now you can manually activate the APU if you want, just so it's ready, using this button here. But again, it's all automated. So when you think you might be needing it, just come over to your APU power here, your APU bleed here, and it'll automatically start cranking and give you it when it needs it. Let's get rid of TCAS. And again, look how fast you run away. Now here's a good example of where this is helpful. Your weather is still on. Again, we no longer want to know the weather. Quick glance to the right, you're saying clear for the immediate cross. Feeling dank, look at all the aircraft stack up. By the way, been to Frankfurt so many times in real life. This is as you see. It's after Heathrow, I believe, the busiest airport in Europe. Way busier than Schiphol, which is kind of weird because Schiphol's got like umpteen runways. Frankfurt, when I was younger, only had 2. Then they built the 3rd one, and more recently the 4th. And you can see they make good use of it all. Typically they use the parallel runways for arrivals, and they use the 3rd runway and the offset runway to spit out departures. Auto brake off, so let's get rid of that. Let's start retracting the flaps, make it look like we know what we're doing from the outside. You can see there we're configured awfully. Let's get rid of the boards. 1, 2, 3. That's all off. Now, I don't know, but I'm guessing once APU is up and running, there we see APU is on. Let's try shutting down the second engine. And just have 1 and 3, and you see middle engine shutting down. See if that at all helps with our taxi. Because I'm constantly having to ride the wheel brakes, which can't be doing them much good. Come over here, see pressure, temperature. Temperature's very low. Considering I've just been slowing down from an overspeed landing, I'd expect it to take a little bit more time to cool down. Weather radar is still on, so let's come over here and turn that off, and that stops it flashing. Back to the map. Yeah, it's not running away the same now. I'll tell you what, that's loads better for taxiing. Just shut the middle engine down. I'm actually needing to add power now, which is as you'd expect. What I say a nightmare. I mean, for those people that enjoy those sort of issues, must be great fun being ground control at Frankfurt right now, trying to figure out everybody's path. I mean, granted, with parallel taxiways, that takes a huge load off your mind. You send one way and one the other way. But with every other taxiway coming onto and off those, such as here, I want to go this way, this guy wants to come this way, I'm going to be told to stop here. He's going to be give clearance to shoot off to the side. Just have a little look outside right now as to what's going on. That's a lot of and again, this is the actual comms on VATSIM. I've got 2 freaks tuned in. We've got, I believe, Frankfurt Approach Center and the Tower, I believe. See that guy? Yeah, so that's unusual to have aircraft landing there. But, or at least in my time it was. Maybe things are a little bit different now.
127 decimal 275, call sign only for Tom Jet 7, November India, vielen Dank, ciao. Easy 429 grounds. 429 Roger.
I love this high intensity lighting. I mean, that is Long overdue.
France 15 Echo descend 5,000 feet, QNH 1012.
I remember when I used to go to Germany a lot, we'll always put on the stands over on this end of the airport here at Frankfurt, so you could probably guess which airline I was flying based on that, if you take my accent into account. Certainly, tell you what, I've just got the default scenery. It looks really good. Again, I've got my settings up on full. It's absolutely fantastic. And I have been... if you have to go at a different gate, it is a lot of walking to get from one side of the airport to the other. I mean, they do got these trains connecting the different terminals, but it's like, it's a good couple of miles from one end to the other, and I have walked it. Alright, back inside, the dude has passed. Oh, Lufthansa's. That's a 737. Very nice. Alright, let's go. Needing quite a bit of power to get going with just the two engines. Granted, we're maybe going slightly uphill as well, but... Alright, are there any modules that are better than this one? Because I'm telling you right now, this is right up there with the best when it comes to X-Plane. Tolis A340, A321. Again, the Zebo 73 is simply fantastic. Felix is 747-2 Classic. Certainly anything like the Concorde. Ini builds A310. Back, and I realise that's not yet XP12, but those of you that got it from XP11, I'm trying to think any others that were that sort of level. The Boeing 72-12, the Classic, it's better than that. Sounds are not as good. That module was really good on the sound, really good on the module, but a little lacking in some of the other ways. This is, it's up there with the best. And think if the sounds were a little better and the lighting during the day, the cockpit was a little bit better, then this would be the best. That's what I'm going to say. What was wrong there with the FMC and the autopilot messing us up a bit on the VNAV? It was adding thrust when we were too high. We were trying to get down to 4. Everything was programmed in. It said we were on height when clearly we was way, way high when it came to intercepting the ILS. Had I not put that shortcut in, even though I gave, what, like 15 minutes before we got there, I programmed that shortcut in, would that have spat us out at the right height? I'm almost sure of it. Should it have compensated? Yeah, I mean, every other module would have. If you were giving yourself shortcut way ahead of time, as long as there was no height restrictions holding you up, which there weren't, it should have dropped us in at the right height. Is that a limitation in the real Mad Dog? I have no idea. I'll tell you something else now in X-Plane. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to the trees, but just wow. You see very light winds here, but you can see the individual leaves and parts of the trees, even there in the silhouette. Right, so we've been dropped in at the end. Turn off, lights off. Alright, taxi light off as well. Let's set the clunky parking brake. Look at that. That seems to automatically reset the FMC, which makes sense. Parking brake after taxi at the end. APU is on. Anything else? Let's get rid of the ignitions. And let's shut down. We've already got engine 2 off. Let's go engine 3. Engine 1. Wow. What a module. What a module. Again, not paid. I had to buy this. Nobody gave me any discount or anything. Nobody got in touch or anything like that. Just, again, beware of any... Again, I've got a separate channel. It's got about 5,000 subscribers to it. And it was new last year. So it was building up through the thousands, 2,000, 3,000 in spring. Got to 5 by now. And I've had 4 different people reach out asking me to promote not just software but products as well. And so what I'm saying by that is anybody who's got a bigger channel than 5,000 that's in any way related to gaming, watch out, because they're all getting contacted. That isn't to say they're taking the offers. I haven't taken any of the offers. But if you see them with a new product saying, oh, review of this new thing, especially if they've got access to it before anybody else, massive red flag, guys. The only way they can get something before it's out is if they were given it early. And if they're given it early, this is so important to understand. Could they be paid to say it? Yes. Could it be really somebody working for them? Yes. But even if it isn't, because it's maybe one of the big timers that, you know, I'm telling you, if they only say good things about it, just be wary that it doesn't necessarily mean they were paid to say it was good. But think of it like this. Let's assume I was given this plane and it's not out yet. Clearly it is out, but let's just assume I had this plane and it's 3 weeks ago and it's XP12 and nobody had it yet, but here I am with it. If I say everything about it is great, that's good. Next time, let me get rid of that. Next time they make another plane, you know I'm going to be on their list to review their plane, and so are other companies. However, if I start pointing out all the faults with it, do you think they're going to ask me to review the next one? Do you think other companies are getting in touch because they're thinking, hang on, we've got this list of people here, and every time they get early access, they always say everything's amazing. And so, yeah, but this guy here, he picks all the faults. They're never going to get in touch with you. Again, they're going to let you have it once and never again. And I'm telling you, just be careful. Just be careful. And it's a shame to have to say that, but again, if a channel with 5,000 subs is getting 4 offers and I'm giving it to you straight there, then you know channels that are bigger than, again, that's quite a small channel when you think about it, then you know channels that are bigger, they're getting even more offers. And again, often it's very subtle the way that it's not a case of, oh, here's £2,000 and you can only say good stuff and here's the NDA and da. It's not like that. Not like that at all. They reach out in a very friendly way, and the more you engage with them, the more they start laying things down. And I know because I engaged with one of the companies, and it was the more and more I got in touch with them, the more and more you got to do this, you can't do this. And then in the end, I didn't accept it. And again, don't look at me like I'm amazing. I'm sure there are other people that as well turn their heads. But I will say this for free. When then I see other channels that are then suddenly talking about or promoting this product, and I'm thinking, oh, I just had that email last week. Like, you know, they took it. And it's, again, just watch out. I know this is a common knowledge thing now, but I'm telling you, it's in channels as small as 5,000 subscribers, and who knows how much smaller. I mean, I'm trying to think, but I'd love to have written down how big was my channel when I first got the first email. But I'm telling you, it wasn't much. It was maybe around 2,000 subscribers, as literally as small as that. Granted, it was for, I can't remember even what it was now, but I wouldn't tell you the name of the company even if I could, but I'm trying to think what it was now. I'll tell you what it was. It was for contact lenses for VR glasses. That's what it was, the first one. And yeah, so just be careful, guys. And all right, that's going to round it off for me. And so until next time, wherever in the world you may be, take care. And I hope you enjoyed it. So until next time, I'm going to have to turn those off so I can turn this up. Bye-bye! Wow, look at that. All them planes on final, man. Depends what zoom level I have if you can even see the landing lights, but wow.